CTV News. Live from downtown Winnipeg with Marilee Caruso.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. A series of threatening incidents in the RM of Alexander have left municipal staff, including the mayor, on edge tonight. The final straw was a bullet hitting a grader working on a local road. Live tonight with the latest is CTV's Jeff Keel. So, Jeff, what happened with this grader?
The mayor says the driver heard a bang, got out to see what it was, and found a bullet hole in the side of the machine. A rural municipality northeast of Winnipeg is worried staff and elected officials are being intimidated.
It's just a terrible thing. Do you want to go to work and think that you're going to be shot at every day? It's very concerning.
Earlier this month, a public works employee from the RM of Alexander was operating this grader on a road.
He heard a bang, but just thought it was a noise from operating the grader.
But after a closer inspection, he found this hole on the side of the grader. A bullet pierced through this mesh door, believed to be from a high-powered rifle. Mayor Jack Briscoe says no one is supposed to be hunting in the area where the grader was struck. He says they're all on edge wondering if this was intentional.
We are taking it as a threat, and it is being dealt with that way because it is very serious.
RCMP say they are investigating the incident. The RM says this is the first of many suspicious incidents they've dealt with over the last year and a half. The mayor says a lagoon project and another development plan may be causing tensions to rise. In March 2024, a municipal staff member had a red target spray painted on their vehicle. The next month, signs were damaged. The RM says their emergency coordinator has faced harassment and inappropriate social media posts have plagued the RM. The RM says the grader incident is the last straw. They've installed security cameras at their office.
Like, people are scared to drive to do their job in the RM, and there was talks of they wanted two people to be in the vehicle together so they're not alone.
The mayor is urging people to come forward to police if they have any information.
Jeff, is there any evidence to link or connect any of these events together?
In the cases of the spray paint on the vehicle and the damage to the signs, the RCMP say at this time there is no indication that they are connected. On the grader shooting, Mounties say the investigation continues.
All right, thanks for this, Jeff. Police are investigating after partial human remains were found in a back lane in the North End here in Winnipeg. Someone reported finding the remains at around 1:30 Sunday afternoon in the 600 block of Selkirk Avenue. The homicide unit is investigating the death as suspicious. Police were not able to provide any details about the person's identity. Anyone with information is asked to contact the homicide unit or Crime Stoppers. A coalition of childcare providers is calling on the Canoe government tonight to create more quality childcare spaces. While the group is pleased, Manitoba signed on to Ottawa's $10 a day childcare program and improved pay for early educators. It says the number of actual spots available is lacking. To explain, CTV's Taylor Brock joins us now. So Taylor, what are parents dealing with when it comes to childcare?
Marilee, it's not uncommon to see babies on wait lists even before they're born, siblings in different daycares, or for families to travel outside of their neighborhoods for childcare. In April, the coalition commissioned a probe research poll to find out how long families are waiting for a childcare spot. It found the average was 17 months. Citing data from a 2025 annual report, the coalition says Manitoba has childcare spaces for less than a third of the province's preschoolers. This is far below the national target of 59%. The numbers show fewer than 4,200 new childcare spots have opened since Manitoba promised to create 23,000 by next year. Funds from the federal government's early learning and childcare agreement were pegged for this. However, advocates say there's an over-reliance on parents to spearhead new spaces and a lack of publicly owned and operated facilities. They say a new model is needed to create spaces faster.
There is public money to do this. We're showing that the province actually underspent by 10% this last year, so there's money there to put into this, as well as any public investment in childcare research shows comes back to the public purse because parents are able to go to work, pay taxes, and the economic development is there for governments to earn back the money.
A statement from Tracy Schmidt, the Minister of Education and Early Childhood Learning, says in part our government is taking a comprehensive approach by expanding spaces through partnering with schools, post-secondary institutions, health authorities, municipalities and Indigenous governments, while also strengthening the workforce. Schmidt adds the province is working to attract and retain childcare workers.
Taylor, does the coalition have any specific requests for the province to try and speed up the creation of childcare spaces?
Well, it says right now a lot of the burden is on parent-led volunteer boards to expand or create these new licensed childcare spaces through an application process. They also have to fundraise 40% of the capital. They want that fundraising requirement scrapped, so the onus is put on the province to pitch plan and cost out the new facilities.
All right, thanks for this, Taylor. The death of a woman whose family waited more than 30 hours for care in a Winnipeg hospital is being investigated as a critical incident. The woman's daughter posted to social media saying her mother visited a clinic for a swollen hand last weekend and was told to attend hospital for further treatment. The post alleges the woman was left on a stretcher for 30 hours at Grace Hospital, where her condition deteriorated. She was transferred to St. Boniface Hospital, where she died. The Winnipeg Regional Health Authority could not discuss details, but confirmed the patient's death has been deemed a critical incident and will be investigated as such. Health Minister Yusoma Asagara spoke to the daughter today.
It's very clear that a critical incident investigation and review needs to be done. But further to that, I believe that a more comprehensive investigation needs to be completed. We need to understand not only what happened here in as much detail as possible, we need to understand how we can prevent this from happening again to any Manitoba family. So I did share that with her this morning. We're going to keep the family up to speed in terms of how this proceeds, but you know, these incidents are devastating and they are also unacceptable. We can and must do better.
CTV News has reached out to the woman's daughter. We have not yet heard back. Well, if you get pulled over for speeding, you may be issued a ticket in a brand new way. The Winnipeg Police Service is rolling out a new electronic ticketing system. The service says it began a phased-in rollout of the new system. The e-ticketing system allows officers to enter Highway Traffic Act offense information onto a secure digital platform. You will still get a printed ticket directly at the roadside. The big change is how they're created. Police are using a digital platform called Smart Squad, which gives officers smartphones with apps and tools to access the police service's record management systems. The hope is this will boost accuracy and accountability while allowing officers to spend less time on paperwork. Winnipeg could soon be home to a new McDonald's restaurant unlike any you've likely seen before. The global fast food giant has unveiled plans for a roughly 2,000 square foot drive-through only restaurant at the corner of Kenniston Boulevard and Grant Avenue. A McDonald's executive told councillors at City Committee meeting this week it would be the first restaurant of its kind outside of the U.S. Local franchisee Amit Kapoor says it wouldn't lead to any other restaurants closing and would still employ about 60 people, where a regular McDonald's employs around 80.
If this prototype works, if it becomes successful, it will put Winnipeg on the roadmap, right? There's a lot of media attention which will go behind this. In fact, there'll be a lot of corporate people who would come out here, who would learn from this experience.
To go ahead, the project would need some zoning amendments. The City Centre Community Committee gave the plan the green light. It now needs full approval from City Council. All right, let's check in with Colleen Brady now and get a first look at our Skywatch evening forecast. What are you tracking for us tonight, Colleen?
Well, not a lot of excitement, really. No matter where you go in Manitoba tonight, and in northwestern Ontario for that matter, there's the possibility of flurries. Otherwise, it will be cloudy. And folks, it's just getting colder. We've had a good run through November with these above seasonal temperatures, not just here in the south, but in northern Manitoba as well. But that is coming to an end. You've probably already noticed that, especially it's been a little windy today in some north winds. That will continue tonight, and so will these temperatures that will continue to fall. It's still a gradual drop, but I'll show you when it does drop off quite a bit. It'll come in a few days. Not right now, though. Let's take a look through the Bath Fitter Live Eye. Bath Fitter, your bath and shower experts for more than 40 years. In Winnipeg right now, it's -4 with a little bit of light snow falling. With the wind chill, it feels like -10 with those northwest winds at 18 kilometers an hour blowing around our camera a little bit. The pressure's rising and the humidity right now, Marilee, is 74%.
Thanks, Colleen. The Winnipeg Airport has a new tool to get you through security a bit faster, and you can't miss it. The Canadian Air Transport Security Authority has installed this very large CT X-ray machine at Line 4 of the security screening area. The agency says passengers who use the X-ray machine won't have to remove liquids, medical devices, or large electronics such as laptops from their carry-on bags. This is because it will show security agents a 3D rotatable image of all the contents of your bag. CATSA says the technology will eventually be in place at all screening lines. It's the end of an era for an iconic East Kildonan bowling alley, which has watched over Henderson Highway for decades. Roxy Lanes, originally the two-story Roxy Theatre, first opened to the public on Christmas Eve back in 1929. Now, the 96-year-old red bricks are slowly getting dismantled piece by piece as the Manitoba Métis Federation has new plans for the space. CTV's Joseph Bernacki has more on the bowling lane's lasting legacy.
Winnipeg bowler Jeff Bourne says he is sad to see this piece of history hit the chopping block.
It's terrible to see the demolition of another bowling alley. Unfortunately, bowling alleys are not the highest and best use of space, and they're getting scraped.
Bourne loves 5-pin bowling and hits the lanes twice a week. He remembers a time when Roxy Lanes held an annual nationally televised tournament. He rolled in the event that began in the mid-1980s.
We had a few Winnipeg champions. I made the final show in 1995. So it was a nice party for about 20 years.
The East Kildonan Bowling Alley closed its doors April 2022. It was then purchased by Manitoba Métis Federation. Now, a full demolition has begun on the building as the MMF plans to turn it into a mixed 55-plus residential and commercial space. The MMF says the new space will address the need for affordable senior housing.
Our seniors, our elders, that's the priority we should be focused on. So this particular building is going to continue on with that.
The bowling alley was once home to the 1,200-seat Roxy Theatre, which first opened Christmas Eve 1929. Cindy Tugwell, executive director of Heritage Winnipeg, brought her 3 sons to bowl here over the years. She says there was a missed opportunity by the city to save the 96-year-old building.
I think we forget that when we tear these buildings down, you're taking those memories and that history away from that neighborhood.
Tugwell points to the success of uptown lofts that replaced the former Academy lanes. Goodon says the demolition will take some time due to the potential presence of asbestos and other toxic materials. They would like to have the new space complete in 2026. He says they found the original projector intact in the basement. They are hopeful they can salvage it along with the building's original signage and perhaps find it a new home.
They've got to be worth something to somebody. So, and if that's the case, then we can absolutely work with any partners that want to preserve something like that.
Joseph Bernacki, CTV News, Winnipeg.
The province is partnering with the federal government to spend more than $6 million to fight gender-based violence. The money will be spread out among 32 separate initiatives working to end gender-based violence and provide support for victims. Families Minister Nahani Fontaine says the cash will augment the $22 million the province is already providing to agencies. This includes funding for women's shelters, transitional housing, and resource centers.
Survivors have gained autonomy, confidence, and meaningful opportunities to rebuild their lives.
Fontaine says in the past year, more than 27,000 Manitobans have accessed services funded through the provincial program. 41% of those people were in rural, remote, or northern areas. Some new findings from a recent survey are highlighting concerning trends on cannabis use while behind the wheel. 24% of Manitoba drivers admitted to consuming cannabis before driving, up 6% from last year. The data also shows among those who used cannabis before driving, nearly 2/3 did so within 3 hours of consuming it, which is a 10% increase from a year earlier. This is all according to the results of a CAA Manitoba survey. The online survey was conducted from June 27th to July 14th with just over 500 participants. CAA is reminding cannabis users to plan ahead by choosing alternative transportation, adding it should never be used while behind the wheel. 911 calls to police from Winnipeg libraries dropped from 23 in 2024 to just 9 this year. It's just one of the findings in a new report at City Hall. According to the report, there was a total of 293 incidents of various types between July and September of this year. That's a nearly 24% drop from the same period a year ago. The incidents reported include everything from inappropriate behavior to alcohol and substance use and thefts. City staff broke down the numbers from Millennium Library separately in the report and found there were 90 reported incidents there, a 57% drop from 2024. The report also shows a slight decline in visitors to all libraries, with Millennium Library seeing about an 8.5% drop. It blames the drop on the reduction of hours in September of 2024 and speculates that the end of buses operating on Graham Avenue may have also had an impact on traffic to the library. The city is looking at better ways to protect trees, including those on private property. According to a new report, the protection and maintenance of trees is currently governed by a patchwork of bylaws, and there is nothing which gives the city authority over trees on private property unless it's a zoning issue. Now, the Public Service is recommending the city draw up its own tree bylaw to clarify the rules around removing, protecting, planting, and getting compensation for trees on public land. It's already contacted the province about making an amendment to the city charter to give the city more power over trees on private property. If you've driven through south parts of the city lately, you may have found yourself in the dark. Manitoba Hydro says it's been dealing with some outages along Abanushi-Mikina and La Jamodier over the past couple of weeks. Here's a look at those roadways last night. Manitoba Hydro spokesperson Peter Chura says crews have been replacing old light standards with new ones along those stretches of road. However, there have been some installation issues which Chura assures crews are working quickly to fix. He adds Hydro often relies on Manitobans to let it know about outages.
This time of year, we really get a backlog of those kinds of reports because the days are shorter, there's more hours of darkness, people are noticing the streetlights are out and letting us know, which is the right thing to do.
Chura says if you come across a streetlight outage, you should head to Hydro's website and fill out a form.
It's premature, irresponsible for anybody to talk about, what people think.
A pipeline to the west, why a new deal between Ottawa and Alberta could spark a major firestorm of protests.
We all know just how cold Manitoba winters can be. Imagine not having a winter coat, boots, a toque, or mitts, and stepping out into the cold. That's the reality for many kids. But you can change that. Give the gift of warmth. Donate to Coats for Kids.
Taking a look at the markets tonight, crude oil added 70 cents. The Canadian dollar rose above 71 cents U.S. Gold gained $25. The TSX is up 279 points. The Dow Jones climbed 314 points, while the Nasdaq added 189 points. Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew has written a letter to Prime Minister Mark Carney asking for stiffer sentences for repeat or serial killers and changes to the parole system. Kinew cited the release of Sean Lamb, a man who pleaded guilty to manslaughter in the 2012 deaths of 2 Indigenous women and was later sentenced to 20 years. Lamb was released earlier this month under statutory release, a federal law which allows most inmates to be automatically released after serving 2/3 of their sentence. Kinew says the release seems to be suggesting society places more concern on the well-being of a serial killer than its victims. Kinew's 2-page letter includes a call for stronger sentences under the criminal code for serial killers. It also asks for a review of the composition of the parole board so it reflects diverse perspectives and some sort of oversight for parole board decisions involving serious violent offenses. A shooting today in Washington, D.C. 2 West Virginia National Guard members were shot about a block from the White House. And tonight, they're in critical condition and a suspect is in custody. Christiane Cordero has the latest.
2 National Guard members were standing at a busy metro station 1 block away from the White House when gunfire erupted. Both of them shot, according to officials.
The suspect came around the corner, raised his arm with a firearm and discharged it at the National Guard members.
This is a targeted shooting. One individual who appeared to target these guardsmen.
Multiple officials confirm a suspect is also receiving medical attention and was taken to a nearby hospital in an ambulance. Metro Police say the suspect is now in custody.
We are in the preliminary stages of this investigation. We will run down every single lead, every piece of evidence.
Witnesses at the scene describe the chaos.
Then when those big booms started happening, people started clearing out like, yo, this is a little bit serious. This is shooting. There's something bad going on here.
The Guards members from West Virginia were two of more than 2,000 deployed to patrol the nation's capital at the direction of President Trump. West Virginia Governor Patrick Morrisey said in a statement today, "Our prayers are with these brave service members and their families." Vice President Vance paid respects while speaking to military members in Kentucky ahead of the Thanksgiving holiday.
But I think it's a somber reminder that soldiers, whether they're active duty, reserve, or National Guard, our soldiers are the sword and the shield of the United States of America.
The White House says President Trump has been briefed. He is currently in Florida and was not at the White House at the time of the shooting. Christiane Cordero, ABC News, Washington.
We could be days away from the announcement of an agreement between the federal government and the province of Alberta to move forward on a new pipeline. Prime Minister Mark Carney will be in Calgary Thursday, and sources say he and Alberta Premier Danielle Smith will sign a memorandum of understanding, which would lead to the construction of a pipeline to BC's coast. CTV's Mike LeCouture has more on the proposed pipeline and BC's strong opposition to it.
What's your message to BC MPs concerned about the pipeline?
No comment from the Prime Minister this morning on potential caucus discord over a pipeline to the BC coast and an agreement with Alberta expected to be announced Thursday.
We enjoy a very open and engaged dialogue.
Very good conversation.
And few words from the Energy Minister, who started his day briefing those BC MPs on what's to come.
Were you reassured by Mr. Hodgson this morning?
Details on both the meeting and what's in tomorrow's announcement scant.
It's premature, irresponsible for anybody to talk about, what people think and who's saying what until there is something that's on paper.
With some MPs, including the caucus chair, insisting everything is fine.
I support the Prime Minister, and Prime Minister has a vision, and something really good will come out of this tomorrow. Everybody's happy, honestly.
But the former Environment Minister wouldn't answer when asked multiple times if he was mulling over quitting. And many BC MPs wouldn't stop to talk. This pair, including Vancouver's former mayor, walked by silently 3 times.
You've got BC bought in, that you've got First Nations leadership bought in, and First Nations communities bought in is the minimum expectation.
The memorandum of understanding that we're negotiating with Alberta creates necessary conditions, but not sufficient conditions.
That was an oxymoron statement if I ever heard one. I don't understand what it meant. It's just, I don't think regular Canadians will understand what that means.
In addition to any potential pipeline opposition that may or may not be bubbling inside caucus, it very much exists from coastal BC First Nations and BC's premier, who said it's unacceptable his province hasn't been involved in the talks. Abigail Beeman, CTV News, Ottawa.
The premiers of British Columbia and Saskatchewan are at odds tonight over a lost opportunity for BC. The Saskatchewan Potash company, Nutrien, has decided to build a $1 billion ocean terminal on the U.S. West Coast instead of in BC.
It is unacceptable. It is deeply disturbing and problematic that Nutrien decided to go to Washington State instead of coming to British Columbia.
That Premier says, we don't want oil in this port, Mr. Speaker, because you can't get a boat into it. And then that same NDP policymaking Premier, Mr. Speaker, questions why another industry isn't making that very investment in our nation.
Nutrien says the proposed terminal in the Pacific Northwest will allow the company to move millions of tons of Canadian potash to global markets. A young person in Toronto has been arrested and charged in a terrorism case. It's the result of a cross-border police investigation. RCMP say the charges include participating in the activities of a terrorist group by editing and posting ISIS propaganda videos and soliciting firearms for the purpose of carrying out a terrorist activity. The suspect cannot be identified, I should say, because of their age. At least 36 people are confirmed killed and nearly 300 others missing after Hong Kong's deadliest fire in nearly 3 decades. Flames and smoke are still visible several hours after a fire broke out at the 32-story residential towers. The cause is still under investigation, although authorities noted the towers were covered in flammable bamboo scaffolding. Local media in Hong Kong are reporting 3 men have been arrested on suspicion of manslaughter. The death toll from flooding across Thailand has now risen to at least 33 as helicopters rush to evacuate people trapped by the high water levels. Several parts of the country were inundated after heavy rains, including some areas which received more than 330 millimeters, which is the most seen in 300 years. The Olympic flame has begun its journey for the Milano Cortina Winter Games. Bad weather in Greece forced the flame lighting ceremony indoors away from the usual Olympia Stadium. 10,000 runners will carry the torch across Italy ahead of the Winter Games. The Games, by the way, begin February 6th. A leadership shakeup at the U of W. The university's president has suddenly been removed. We'll tell you how the board says it made that decision.
Well, Marilee, after weeks of talking about temperatures above normal, they're about to fall below it. Yeah, let's brace yourself, folks. By Friday, -7 is our high. Now for Winnipeg, the normal high for this time of year is -6, so just below. But then the temperature just keeps on falling. Those daytime highs getting a little colder. Saturday, -8 degrees, a mix of sun and cloud. And some days will be a little on the sunnier side, others a little cloudier. Overall, a mix of sun and cloud. I'm just delaying telling you about those minus double-digit highs by the time we get to Sunday. -11 Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday.
RCMP are investigating several break-ins at a storage facility in Dauphin where some expensive items were stolen. Mounties are still compiling a list of everything that was stolen, but so far they say at least 3 snowmobiles and 2 utility trailers were taken. It's believed 8 units were broken into sometime between 6 p.m. Monday night and 8 Tuesday morning. It happened at a storage facility on Whitmore Avenue in Dauphin. Anyone who saw anything suspicious in or around the area is asked to call Dauphin RCMP. The University of Winnipeg says President and Vice Chancellor Todd Mondor is no longer with the university, effective immediately. In a statement, Board of Regents Chair Michelle Piera says the decision to remove him was reached after careful consideration and extensive deliberation. Work is already underway to appoint an interim leader in the coming weeks as the board begins to think about its search for the next president and vice chancellor. Mondor was hired as the university's 10th president and vice chancellor in April of 2022. That term was not set to expire until June of 2027. CTV News has reached out to the University of Mondor for further comment. We are still waiting for a response. Curling action continues at the Olympic qualifiers in Halifax tonight, and at least one Manitoba team is heading into this weekend's playoffs. Just a short time ago, Gimli's Carrie Anerson dropped a 7-6 decision to Rachel Homan's team. Both teams finished the round robin with a 6-1 record and will both be moving on to the playoffs. They will be joined by Christina Black's team from Halifax, which edged out Manitoba's Kate Cameron 10-6. Things are a bit more fluid on the men's side this hour. Winnipeg's Matt Dunstone is currently squaring off against Saskatchewan's Mike McEwen, and at last check, that game was McEwen was leading 5-3. Now, if Dunstone loses and Brad Gushue wins his current match against Brad Jacobs, Gushue will be heading to the playoffs, and Dunstone's team will be coming home. Jacobs right now has a narrow 3-2 lead in that match. Meantime, the only other Manitoba team at the tournament is Winnipeg's Jordan McDonald, and that team is taking on the team from Ontario this hour. McDonald trailing that one 5-4.
CTV Skywatch weather brought to you by South Beach Casino and Resort. Visit southbeachcasino.ca.
Well, the time has come. Get your toques and your gloves because you're going to need them this week.
Absolutely. You saw those temperatures, those daytime highs, Marilee, over the next few days. They're just going to get colder and colder. And yeah, we're going to start talking about temperatures below normal for this time of year. It's been a good run, folks, throughout much of November. But yeah, time to get back to reality and time to get closer to temperatures that are more seasonal for this time of year, if not even just a little bit colder than that. Across all of Manitoba tonight, northwestern Ontario, there's the chance of flurries. It's just in some communities, the chance is a little higher than others. Across the south, some light cloud right now. Same thing up across much of the north. Further east into northwestern Ontario, flurries are quite likely across the region tonight. But I want to show you that system I was showing you last night that was bringing all kinds of snow just south of the U.S. border and a little bit spilling over into southern Manitoba. Look how far off it's already moved. It's over the Great Lakes. But I want to mention this as well. If you have any traveling to Toronto tomorrow, that lake effect snow coming off the lakes is expected to head into the Toronto area. So a special weather statement has been issued for that city. Back to ours in Manitoba tonight. This is what I'm talking about, really. Just the chance of flurries no matter where you go for the most part. But as we move a little later on into the night ahead, we'll start to see some of the clouds clear, at least partly tonight across the south. Not so much across the north, although the most northern tier of the province a little bit clearer there. But again, really, there's the chance no matter where you are of a few flurries flying here and there. But you see this band of snow right here coming off the lakes. This doesn't look like much, does it? But it has the potential to produce several centimeters of snow coming off the north basin of Lake Winnipeg through the Narrows and then off into areas out of the southeast off of Lake Winnipeg. So places like Pinawa, you may well see a few centimeters of snow headed your way over the next couple of days or in that general vicinity. It's pretty narrow, that band, at least at this point. Now we get overnight Thursday into Friday, some clearing across the south, still pretty cloudy in the north. And I know you're watching this. It looks like this should miss Manitoba for the most part. We get into Friday, still seeing that sunshine here in the south. Little band of snow, really sort of this tail, this front edge tail coming into parts of Manitoba, but it doesn't have significant amounts of snow with it at this point. As for tonight for Winnipeg, there's a little bit of light snow falling. There's a low chance the rest of the night here, just like everywhere else, of a few flurries. Some pretty strong gusty northwest winds courtesy of that low that's well out to the east I just showed you. -8 is the low, -7 is the temperature for your commute under a mix of sunny cloud. -4 is our high tomorrow. Up into the north tonight, starting in the northeast, a few flurries for Churchill, Gillam, and over to Thompson. Thompson dropping down to -13. Best chance of flurries or light snow tomorrow will be around Churchill, -12 there. Gillam -14, -11 for Thompson tomorrow. The chance of flurries all around the northwest tonight. The strongest chance is Lynn Lake and the Paw. And then tomorrow, more flurries for Lynn Lake, -10 there. Norway House, -8. In the southwest tonight, partly cloudy for Dauphin and Swan River. Cloudier for Brandon and Neepawa. Brandon down to -11. Mix of sun and cloud around the region tomorrow. Highs around the region of -5. Winnipeg in the southeast tonight. A few flurries coming off the lakes into Pinawa. Cloudy for Winnipeg. A slight chance of flurries again tomorrow with highs between -4 and -6. And in northwestern Ontario, look for flurries tonight, and you may see some more tomorrow. Our first weather photo is from Lois. This is the beautiful sunrise over Winkler, Manitoba. Nice shot there, nice colors, and still open water, of course. And this next one is a look at the sunrise near Arborg in the Interlake from Susan. Send us your pics to Winnipeg Weather at ctv.ca.
CTV News Winnipeg is building another mountain of toys, and there is a few ways you can help us do that. You can drop off a new or unwrapped toy with us on Saturday, November 29th at Access Storage on Lawson Crescent from 1 to 4 p.m. You can also make a toy donation at All Scotia Bank, IKEA, and Toys R Us locations, as well as at select Winnipeg fire paramedic stations. And Toy Mountain will return to CF Polo Park on December 5th and 6th. CTV News Winnipeg and our friends from Virgin Radio and Bounce will be collecting toy donations on the second floor overlooking Center Court. You can find out more information about all of the 2025 Toy Mountain events and locations on our website. Just go to ctvnewswinnipeg.ca.
Fundamentally, these are embarrassing numbers, and I think that's why governments are not keen to go out and track them carefully.
Coming up, an alarming new report on how many patients are dying while in hospital on wait lists. That's next in Medical Watch. New research shows gambling in this country is shifting from a recreational pastime to a growing public health concern. And when it comes to our mental health, the stakes are high. Joining me now to help break down the relationship between gambling and mental health is Michael Cooper with Mental Health Research Canada. Michael, good to speak with you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Before we get to the impact gambling has on our mental health, can you just give us an idea of how prevalent gambling is here in Canada?
Well, our research has shown it's about 9% of Canadians are showing problematic gambling on a scale that's been used for quite some time called the PGSI, and that is highly concentrated among younger Canadians, 18 to 34, and males.
So when we're talking about problem gambling, how does it impact our mental health?
Well, the most recent research we've put out has shown that for individuals who are showing high on the PGSI or problematic gamblers, they're about 8 times more likely to plan a suicide, 4 times more likely to show up as severe on what's called the GAD-7 or an anxiety screener. They're about 4 times as likely to show up as severe on a depression screener, and they're about 3.5 times as likely to have just thought about a suicide as well. So when you put that forward, you can see that that's more likely to indicate likely attempts on suicide, and there are other significant harms, including spending more than they can afford and having a cascading effect on their family as well too.
You know, as I was reading through the research just released, it really stood out that the thing about gambling and its effect on your mental health is it doesn't have to be a problem gambling issue to have some repercussions.
Yeah, so there are really 4 classifications. So we know that about 75% of Canadians participate in some form of gambling. And for the majority, and that includes things like lottery, horse racing, going to a casino. The most common form of what we would consider gambling is lottery. But what we find is that there's a significant disconnect. There's almost no problematic gamblers who are doing just lottery. So this is considered a relatively safe activity, so it's not dramatically impacting your mental health. But what we do find is when you start moving especially into online forms of gambling, we do find that approximately 40% of people who are participating in an online form of gambling, sports betting, or there's a host of different online gambling from loot boxes to online casinos, about 40% of them are actually showing problematic gambling indicators. And that's where we see these incredible spikes in negative mental health.
You know, speaking of online gambling, there's been a big push as of late to ban sports gambling ads as they're seen as being quite aggressive. How much blame do you think falls on these types of ads in terms of what we're seeing in gambling behavior?
So, you know, I wouldn't really think about it in terms of blame. We do have other indicators and research that has not come out yet, which actually looks at the effectiveness of this ads, and it is correlated that, you know, the more effective these ads are, the more likely you are to become a problematic gambler, which isn't surprising. I mean, the very fact that approximately 1 in 5 ads that people are seeing during sports games are based around gambling suggests that these companies know that they're working. Otherwise, they wouldn't be putting in so much money into these ads. We can also see it in the amount of revenue that's being generated here in Ontario, for example, where a lot of these ads are being generated from. We're seeing that the rates of revenue coming in from gambling has gone up by about 300% in the last 3 years.
Are there enough resources available for people to get help if they think they do have a problem?
I don't think so. You know, there is not as many resources that are available for problematic gamblers as a lot of this change has happened since the law shifted in 2021. So we haven't really seen the degree of supports that need to be available based on the scale of this need, simply because it is so new. So while there are helplines and there are supports available, we don't have a national strategy here in Canada, which basically means we're not investing in these sorts of supports at scale for the scale of the issue that's coming down the pipe.
Well, hopefully the research like you're sharing with us tonight will help lead some of those discussions. Michael, thanks so much for your time.
My pleasure.
It's an alarming statistic. More than 23,000 patients have died while on wait lists for surgery in this country in the last year alone. CTV's Heather Wright on the numbers and one family's heartbreaking personal story.
Debbie Fuster was expecting a straightforward triple bypass operation, a few days in hospital and then recovery at home. Except the Manitoba woman died before ever getting the surgery.
It still feels like shock.
Daniel Fuster says doctors told his mom she needed heart surgery within 3 weeks. She was left waiting for nearly 3 months.
There was some major mess ups that resulted in her file basically not going to where it needed to go.
Fuster is not alone. According to public policy think tank secondstreet.org, nearly 25,000 patients died in Canada while waiting for surgeries or diagnostic procedures between April 2024 and March 2025. But the organization warns the numbers are likely higher, as many provinces don't track these deaths or only collect partial data.
Fundamentally, these are embarrassing numbers, and I think that's why governments are not keen to go out and track them carefully.
2nd Street is calling on all provinces and territories to track and disclose these deaths. They also want to see hospital funding tied directly to performance, a reform they believe will improve wait times.
It's crazy to keep doing the same thing, throwing money at the system and hoping something will change.
Another proposed reform is Debbie's Law, a Manitoba private member's bill championed by the Fuster family, which would require health authorities to inform patients when life-saving treatment cannot be provided in a timely manner.
Debbie's Law is not perfect. It's not going to solve every problem, but it is a great starting point to begin asking for transparency.
This year's numbers mark a 3% increase from last year, and according to 2nd Street, since 2018, more than 100,000 people have died in Canada while waiting for some sort of surgery or procedure. Heather Wright, CTV News, Toronto.
Medical Watch is brought to you by Manukin Koster Denture Clinic.
Get ready to get loud. Legendary heavy metal band Megadeth shreds its way into Winnipeg this winter. Those concert details and more when we return.
Spotlight, sponsored by the Casinos of Winnipeg, presenting Hotel California, the original Eagles tribute.
Legendary legendary heavy metal band. There we go. Megadeth. They're coming to Winnipeg. It's very exciting. Megadeth will be performing at Canada Life Centre on February 25th alongside Anthrax and Exodus. It's part of a North American tour to support what the band is calling their final studio album, which hits stores in January. Now, if this is the end, they can look back with pride on the success they've already achieved. The Grammy Award-winning band has sold over 50 million albums. Tickets for the show go on sale this Friday through livenation.com. Meanwhile, a new exhibit at the Winnipeg Art Gallery explores a Middle Eastern ethnic minority through one man's story. The vibrant display is described as both an act of remembrance and resistance.
The exhibition focused on my identity being Kurdish, the identity that was forbidden where I was born, and unfortunately it's still forbidden in a lot of different places.
Forbidden Colors opens tomorrow. Winnipeg-based artist Bisiak, who was born in Syria and comes from a refugee background, says it highlights the colors that shape the Kurdish culture, traditions and celebrations. The artist says the Kurdish people, an ethnic minority group without an official state, have faced a lot of discrimination and racism throughout history.
You know, there's a lot of personal stories in this exhibition. There's a lot of my family stories and my people. So I think what I'm trying to what I'm trying to do with this exhibition is just to highlight the Kurds and their own way.
A free opening ceremony is being held tomorrow at 7 p.m., showcasing a feature documentary on the artist. The event will also include a conversation between Bisiak and the director. Some of Hollywood's biggest screen stars have descended on a small town west of Ottawa.
I told him how much I love Superbad, and he loved that. It was awesome.
Michael Cera and Pamela Anderson were seen in Carleton Place this week as Cera makes his directorial debut, filming his movie Love Is Not the Answer. The rom-com follows Anderson as her character comes to learn love is not the solution to all of life's problems. The chance to catch a glimpse of the stars was enough to draw some big crowds.
We haven't seen a lot. We think we saw Pamela Anderson cross the street.
Oh, I love watching all the background stuff, watching the background actors, but we're really hoping to see Pamela Anderson or Jamie Dornan.
The film stars Jamie Dornan, Steve Coogan, and Fred Heckinger. Beat the midweek blues with some great entertainment starting at 7 with Shifting Gears and The Big Bang Theory. Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage is on at 8, and at 8:30 catch up with The Amazing Race. It's all right here tonight on CTV.
The CTV Primetime lineup is brought to you by Strictly Amish, exclusively in Arborg, Manitoba.
Back on its feet or wings. How an animal sanctuary came together to save an unfortunate owl who fell into a cement mixer. Stay with us.
Women's clothing provided by RW & Company. Salon services provided by S&T Spa Salon.
-4 degrees in Winnipeg right now with a little bit of light snow falling over the city. Winds out of the northwest at 18 kilometers an hour, giving a wind chill that makes it feel like -10. -2 today, our highest temperature, so still mild, but we have to go all the way back to 1888 for the record high for this day, which was 7.8 degrees. Down to -8 tonight. We've got the little bit of light snow coming through now. There's a low chance of flurries later tonight, otherwise partly cloudy overnight. A low chance of flurries Thursday, -4, -7 Friday, and then it just gets colder after that.
Thanks, Colleen. An owl found caked in concrete has been nursed back to health. The great horned owl was brought to the Best Friends Animal Sanctuary in Kanab, Utah, after falling into a concrete mixer. Roughly a quarter of the bird of prey was covered in hardened concrete. For 6 days, the team bathed the sedated owl for 20 minutes and meticulously scrubbed the gritty, hardened substance from its face, chest, and right wing. The bird is now on the mend and has since graduated to an outdoor enclosure where we're told it has successfully even made some short flights. Wow, that is remarkable.
It is. What an ordeal, but so glad he's getting much better now.
No kidding. All the other birds are hopefully not making too much fun of his
mistake,
his accidental fall.
All these things happen.
All right, that does it for us tonight. Have a good one.